The Menai Strait is a special place. There's no doubt about it. It is.
I tell you, it'll make your eyes water or it'll make you smile. There's nothing in between.
It is the most stunning location. It takes me away and completely chills me out.
It's a huge honour to be able to live somewhere like here because I can entertain my creative need as well as my needs to be outdoors.
Go for a bit of a walk around somewhere and just sit somewhere just for an hour. It's surprising what you'll see around the Menai Strait.
The Menai Strait, a magical stretch of sea that separates the Isle of Anglesey from mainland Wales. This series brings you a year in the life of the Strait, capturing the beauty of 4 glorious seasons and the life cycle of the men and women who live here. The beauty and challenges of life on the most incredible saltwater river in Britain.
The whole picture changes again. It's a cycle, and, you know, from one year to the other, the only thing that stays exactly the same, different light, is the mountains. They don't move.
When it gets colder, the air quality clears up a bit, and the views that you get from the water of the mountains are generally best at the beginning of the year and towards the end of the year. So you're out on the water. I think you're in the luckiest place in the world to be because it's so beautiful.
The light, of course, is starting to improve again photographically. The days are getting shorter. I love the fact that the sun is lower. I like the fact that you get the changing weather again.
It never gets really cold. It hardly ever gets kind of icy and snowy right here on the shore of the Strait. But it's nearly always windy. You have the sort of the mad winter storms, and then you have this kind of complete calm afterwards.
You know, some Septembers, you get some really good spells of weather, but make hay while the sun's shining. You've just got to carry on going, and you know, while it's there, you've got to do it.
Autumn is harvest time. The sea is bountiful, full of organisms, full of animals. It's a time when the water temperatures get to their maximum. Nice time to go out collecting.
It does seem to switch off. September is pensioners' time, and people without kids.
Sigh of relief if there's enough press in the box, but there's other jobs. Got to pull the yachts out the water, then the moorings need servicing. You know, I can't switch off anyway because I enjoy what I do. It's the boat maintenance, and I enjoy all aspects of it.
Early autumn, and the students arrive. For the School of Ocean Sciences, Bangor University, it's the start of a new academic year.
Here, with having the Menai Straits close to us or on our doorstep, literally, I think it's one of our unique selling points is the fact that, you know, within a very short distance, you've got a range of different marine, coastal habitats and environments. This is an ideal place to study because it is just so diverse. Okay, so this is another student practical, so a chance for students to go out onto the actual shoreline in the Menai Strait to sort of look at the different flora fauna that make up this particular habitat.
For scientist Dr. Michael Roberts, it's a time to welcome new students and introduce them to the delights of the Strait and some of the stunning and fascinating locations. Away from academic duties, Mike and the university are involved in many and varied research projects. It's a vital aspect of their work, sharing their knowledge and expertise with the local community. One such project is at Plas Newydd, the 300-year-old mansion and ancestral home of the Marquis of Anglesey, now restored and owned by the National Trust. The puzzle was to find an efficient way to reduce the mansion's huge heating costs, and the solution came from the Strait.
National Trust came to us, and what they were after was the temperature of the sea. One thing we do have is a long-term record of how the temperature changes in the Menai Strait. The highest it goes is about 16 degrees, and the lowest it goes is about 6 degrees. So there's a 10-degree difference. The sea around us actually reached a peak at the end of the summer. So just when everyone's thinking of putting their radiators on, that's when the sea temperature is actually the warmest, and that's the time when we can take out as much heat energy as there is available. So this system really works well, compatible with, you know, the sea as a source of heat energy. So that's the exciting thing about this. It hasn't been done really in the sea before, certainly not in Wales.
A small amount of seawater is pumped into a heat exchanger on the shore. This water is compressed and heated to 58 degrees and then pumped up the 30-metre cliff face to the mansion's boiler house, providing a local, clean energy system to heat the 18th century mansion.
Yeah, it's a very, very green form of energy. It's just a way of getting cheap energy from a sustainable source. That's the advantage here, I think.
We're on Facebook and Twitter, Puffin Island Cruises aboard the Isle of Princess. But don't ask me how you get on the internet, because I haven't got a clue.
For Beaumaris boatman Stan Zallett, the arrival of autumn marks the end of the tourist season. But if the sun shines, Stan will keep working into October.
Well, we're all right. We can keep going till first couple of weeks of October, and then it becomes finished. We look forward to the end, and when the end comes, we wish we were still going to sea. There's enough there to cover the overheads and things like that. So once you're covering your wages, it doesn't really matter. You don't need big press, as long as you've got Bechtan. You know, we'll get the press when it's about. And put it away over there. Tell nobody. And don't tell him this.
While Stan's glass is always half full, Caernarfon boatman Emrys Jones has endured a quieter season.
It's not been a great season, really. It's a bit on the windy side for lots of days when you've got 20 mile an hour, 25 mile an hour, so it makes a difference to us. Obviously, calm days and warm days are better. It's such a seasonal job to do as much as you can to try and tide you over the winter. Yeah, well, I've known him a long time now. You know, he certainly is a character, yeah, that's for sure. I've known him for, gosh, more years than I care to remember.
Sorry, Emrys the pilot, if you're listening. Everybody says this is the jewel in the crown down here. Other people say it's the honey pot. That winds me up, the honey pot. It's not the honey pot at all. It's just that people have utilised what is here sensibly and not spoilt it. And of course, it's an attraction. It's like Cornwall and places like that. The ones that have been preserved, looked after, en fashion, as they say, it's working.
When the kids go back to school, it does fall off the cliff a bit, but it's all we've known really since we've been running this boat. We just have to take the rough with the spoon. The wife wants me to retire, but I'm going to try and carry on a little bit longer if I can.
In the life cycle of the Strait, autumn is always a harsh and worrying time of year for all the seasonal businesses.
Autumn for me is definitely the end of lots of things. It's the end of a lot of customers. It's the end of the warm weather.
There's certainly particular characteristics and traits that you need to successfully run a seasonal business. I feel like I muddle through, but I've been doing that for over 10 years now, and I'm still here, and I haven't got too many more grey hairs, so I'm clearly doing something right.
And you've got to get rid of that urge. That's the hardest part, is when you see a good dollop of money, not to spend it. You've got to make it last. You've got to make it stretch.
It would be nice to have things a lot easier, but that's life, isn't it? Life isn't like that, so you just...
It is a roller coaster existence. I don't think it's a choice for many people.
There's always something to do. You find something, you'll earn a shilling somewhere if you're quick enough. You know, there's an angle and an angle on an angle, isn't there?
Violent autumn storms made this year's season of change even more challenging.
We've been hit by these really early winter storms again, like we had last year.
2 or 3 of the yachts that I've been photographing for the regattas had actually broken their moorings and ended up on the beach, one of which had sank.
It was such an intense amount of rainfall. I don't think I can ever remember the amount of rain that we had in such a short period of time. We've had a landslip between Beaumaris and Menor Bridge, road shut.
It's caused the power cut problem. We don't have a backup power supply, so we're having to run around and try and get generators set up and sorted out. And we're really starting to be concerned about a lot of the animals. We actually lost our octopus, and we're really gutted about that because we don't like losing anything, especially under those kind of circumstances. Marine animal rescues have been absolutely nuts as a result. We had a common dolphin strand on the beach just at the bottom of our drive. We managed to get a team of us out there in dry suits and waders, refloated it, got it back out to sea as the tide was coming up, so there's a lot more water for it to swim through the channel in. And fingers crossed, it disappeared. Really quite happy. Everyone in the team really enjoyed that. It was the first time that some of the staff had seen a dolphin that close up.
The sun sets ever earlier in the autumn sky, and the low light and dramatic weather over the distant hills provide landscape photographer Glyn Davis with perfect shooting conditions for his latest project.
It is about reconnecting with nature, but it is about the fact that ultimately we are all very, very tiny, and no matter how clever we think we are as human beings, nature will have its own way. A very long-term project that I've been working on, which I started back in 2011, is my landscape figures project. It's not a new subject, it's been done a million times. Painters have painted the nude in landscape for generations, for centuries. The reason I've selected this place, especially for today's shoot, is the fact that unlike the rest of the Menai Strait, it's the openness. This is a vast, vast expanse of landscape, whereas a lot of if you follow the rest of the strait down, it's quite enclosed. But here, I mean, you know, it's just incredible. The actual Menai Strait starts here. I mean, just behind me, we've got Abermenai Point, and that's the narrowest point of the Menai Strait. And all the power of the water is channeling through that very narrow gap and literally flooding this estuary here. When it's calm, it's like a mirror. So the whole of this vast sky above is completely reflected in the water, and there's nothing more magical than that. I really haven't found that anywhere else I've ever been in the UK, so that makes this quite unique. It's the variation in this landscape is exciting as from a photographer's point of view and an artist's point of view, and it means that you've always got something to get your teeth stuck into. There's always different things to photograph. Now turn your head towards the estuary. Turn your body more towards me now. Yes, I like that one. Hold that. Gorgeous. Okay, coat on. The only downside to the winter and the amazing light is that the poor models are often having to sort of take their clothes off in, well, almost zero temperatures, really. That's really beautiful. It's so hit and miss with landscape photography because you don't quite know what the weather's going to deliver. Initially, I used myself as the little naked figure in the picture, which was, shall we say, a little bit nerve-wracking because you didn't know when the next bunch of ramblers were going to suddenly come over the top of a hill and go, what the heck? That's beautiful. Just hold that as you are. What I was looking for the pictures here is the figure, the human figure, in this vastness of space. It's about making the human seem very small and very insignificant in wilderness. That's nice, hold that. Head up more, head right up, almost like you're looking up above you. That's it, now we've got the curves, that's beautiful, hold that. The project became a way of really seeing how the human does relate to natural landscape. When you are literally stripped down to nothing, you become super aware to the wind and to the weather and to the ground under your feet or the water around you. And I think it's it creates a much stronger awareness of where we do come from, and that how this planet supports us.
As autumn moves towards winter and the tourists have all left, life on the Strait gets ever quieter and the boatmen begin their annual cycle of lifting their boats onto dry land.
We've moved from the high numbers of students and we've moved to smaller groups, so we're not quite as busy and quite as hectic around the centre, so I guess there's a calmer feel to the centre. The luxury of closing down during the winter has gone many, many years ago. We are still driven to turn over income. We're still driven to engage with the local community schools. We can still provide activity through December, January and February and into March. It comes to the close of 1 year, but as that's happening, we're already focusing on the start of next year.
Stan is also thinking about next year.
Now, because the boats are out the water, they're in sheds or they're up on the hard, it's time to start preparing them for next year. So there's a lot of camaraderie and that down here. We've got what we call the Coffin Dodgers Club, is what we call it. The original man shed and the entertainment in there, particularly when it's blowing a gale and persisting with rain. It's fantastic. Don't you think it was Kind Watch? There's a lot of character, a lot of heritage, a lot of history in old sheds and things like this. And I've had people coming in here and having a look, and they say, oh, blimey, you got some junk in here. I said, it might be junk to you, but it's gold to me. I've got heat exchangers and pumps and injectors and bits and bobs lying on shelves in here. It looks untidy, but the filing system is here, and I know exactly where everything is. Spare parts, you name it. Oh, here we are. That piece of exhaust. There you go. But can you see it? Oh, that made a noise. Emrys in particular, I would have thought was like this. Old-fashioned, old school.
All men like sheds, don't they? And it's a bit of a cave for me to get away from it. And 117 years old now, it was built 1900. Chap walked in one day, he says, gosh, it's like Aladdin's cave in here, if you can find it. It's got everything in here if you can find it.
Amongst the gold, taking pride of place, a set of aircraft seats.
But when we first had them, one of the yachtsmen, he walked in, he says, what's this? Obviously, they come off for plane, well, danned overseas, I think, so I believe it anyway. And he says, well, I've ordered the plane, but this is all that's come so far.
As Stan and Emrys hibernate in their man caves, muscle producer John Jones keeps on working. In late autumn, he checks on his valuable underwater crops.
At the moment, the mussel meats are very, very low because they've not long spawned. So on a weekly basis now, we'll sample them, see how many pieces we have to the kilo, which is exactly what we're doing now. The Dutch markets tend to like their mussels quite large. What we find is that the French markets like them a little bit smaller. Traditionally, I think the UK have been very, very poor at any type of fish, really, eating any fish. So much programmes on the telly these days now, and all these chefs and whatever, they're all promoting healthy eating, and I think it definitely, the market has started to grow there on the fish, the shellfish. I think for us, there has to be some kind of a change. We've got this produce. It is time that we started showing the rest of the world what we have got here in Wales, especially here in the Menai Strait. The Menai Strait is a special place.
Working and living on this magical waterway does have its challenges. But for these men and women of the Strait, it's a special way of life.
The jewel in the crown of Wales is here, and I'm part of it. We still have the regattas, we still have the people sailing, we still have the visitors coming, we still go fishing.
To be able to work in an environment that you actually like, and really fortunate to have the facilities that we have here. It's just amazing.
It's nice to have the place absolutely rammed with people. It's the buzz that the centre has. It's the staff that are enjoying what they're doing. I'm not Welsh, but I have a Hiraeth. I love where I live.
Anglesey itself is still a place that I can really see as home. And the people that I've met in this area, the language and the culture, makes it a very special place to me.
There's so many beautiful beaches along the Strait. There's so much to see in the way of wildlife. There's so much recreational stuff you can do, like under the bridges at either end of the Strait.
It's just a wonderful area to work. It's a magical place. Beautiful.
They say people get addicted to drink and things like that. I'm addicted to this. No two times about it. I'm quite happy to be here 7 days a week. 24 hours a day would do for me.
I love the fact I'm living here. I love the fact there's lots of variation here. In real terms, once a photographer, always a photographer, I think, and it's in the blood and it's a way of life.
People come from all over the world to this area to come and get involved in super extreme sports, less extreme sports, walking on a coast. It doesn't matter what they're doing, they come here to do activity.
Without the Menai Strait, I don't think we'd have that kind of unique sort of status, I think, if you like. I think it's pretty special, yeah.
There isn't anywhere else like this that I would want to live, and I'm getting more and more of a fondness for it. The longer I'm here, the longer I feel that I want to be here.
Look around you. Is there anywhere? You won't get an office like that, would you? Definitely.
One word. Well, unique. I bet Stan won't describe it in one word.
They reckon that if you can sail the Menai Straits, you can sail the world. So it's got a lot going for it. So I've sailed the Menai Straits, but I haven't sailed the world. It's my world. The Menai Straits is my world, so I'm quite happy with that.